Hello, welcome to Rockanory. I'm Zoe Howe, and if this is your first time watching a Rockanory video, basically what happens is I just choose a bit from an old music book or a new music book, it doesn't have to be old, and I read it to you like a bedtime story or something like that. And today I'm going to read a little bit from Mick Fleetwood's autobiography. It's obviously quite an elderly edition. This came out in 1990, I think, so there's probably been a few new versions since then, but this came out on Morrow, and it was co-written with Stephen Davis, who also authored Hammer of the Gods. And needless to say, I am reading from this because, of course, Fleetwood Mac are touring the UK at the moment, and also Stevie Nicks has a new film out called In Your Dreams, which she made with Dave Stewart. So it's all very exciting, Fleetwood Mackie. So the point at which we are at with this book and my reading of it, that doesn't make sense, but there you go, is when Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham are just about to join the band. Bob Welch has just left, and Mick Fleetwood has already decided that he really loves Lindsey Buckingham's guitar playing. But they are a unit. Buckingham Nicks struggling away, not doing very well, but they are a unit, and Mick Fleetwood has been assured that no Stevie Nicks, no Lindsey Buckingham, he has to have them both, and I don't think he minds too much by the sound of things. I think he might fancy Stevie Nicks a bit, don't know what made me think that, but there you go. So yeah, we're going to come in just before they join Fleetwood Mac, and it's all a bit of a struggle for Buckingham Nicks. Okay, Stevie's family were beginning to have some doubts about her career. When she went home to visit in the spring of that year, 1974, they saw that she was getting very skinny. Excuse me. She wasn't eating and was obviously unhappy. Her parents had been sending her a little money here and there, but what they really wanted was for her to finish school. Her father, who Stevie loves dearly and respects, advised her to start setting some time limits on her career choice. A few months later, he was rushed into open heart surgery. When Stevie couldn't reach his bedside before he was wheeled in, she was filled with remorse that she might lose him before he could see what she had made of herself. On New Year's Eve, Stevie and Lindsey were having a little party at their house and wondering if 1975 was going to be a better year for them. Then Keith Olsen walked in and said, "Hey, I've got some news. Fleetwood Mac want you to join them." Lindsey was so surprised, he recalled, that you could have knocked him down with a feather. "I wasn't consciously shopping for anything other than a guitar player when I called Keith Olsen. Ever since Peter Green, I've been a sucker for guitar players. Who was that guitar player? That's what hit me my first visit to Sound City, even though I was aware there was a girl singing. Lindsey's guitar stuck in my mind. Only later did it become apparent that Lindsey was with Stevie. They were together. Their ambitions and hopes were as a unit. They'd been working for years, I was told. They were hitting brick walls, but were determined to keep writing together. Later, Stevie would give me a hard time. Oh, if I hadn't been with Lindsey, you wouldn't have wanted me. All I can say is that I remembered this guitar player but couldn't remember his name. Keith Olsen called me back and said that Stevie and Lindsey were interested, and so we set up a dinner meeting at a Mexican restaurant called El Carmen. Lindsey came up to our house on Fernwood off Laurel Canyon. Judy Wong was there too. We soon adjourned to the restaurant to meet John and Chris, who were driving in from their house at the beach. Stevie Nicks was waiting for us. I saw Fleetwood Mac drive up in these two old clunky white Cadillacs with big tail fins, she said years later. I was in awe. We settled in at our table, ordered dinner, and then started smiling. There was something magic in the air. We all felt it. We also got drunk on the margaritas. Lindsey offered to play an audition. We explained that we didn't think that would be necessary. We chatted for a bit longer so Chris could suss out the situation. When I first asked her about having another woman in the band, I knew she had some natural reservations, even though she didn't say anything. Being the lady in the band, a lady who first and foremost was a musician and one of the lads, she just said, "Do me a favour. As long as me and Stevie hit it off, everything will be fine, because there's nothing worse than having a couple of ladies in the band who don't like each other." But at this dinner I saw that Stevie was extremely sympathetic and that they were hitting it off really well. Before the dessert came, I simply asked them, "Want to join?" Stevie and Lindsey looked at each other and said, "Yes." I said, "We'd love to have you in the band," and that was it. Being without much in the way of cash, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham were almost immediately put on salary, $200 a week each, as new members of Fleetwood Mac. We may have paid a little of their rent too, but I can't remember. No one really had much money then. We were just surviving at that point. Everything at Fleetwood Mac's was still in Bob Welch's name because we had no green cards that would let us work and earn money in the States. I remember that the $200,000 record advance from Warner Brothers to me, John and Chris went directly into Bob's bank account, and that years later he got a hell of a tax bill. And so it came to pass that we hired Stevie and Lindsay. Within a day or two, Christine returned to England to see her family and take care of some business, while John McVie and I began to rehearse with Lindsay in a garage on Pico Boulevard in Santa Monica. Thus was Fleetwood Mac reborn as a garage band, and it went great. We bashed around for hours, happy just to be playing. When Chris returned, the whole band convened in the basement of International Creative Management on Beverly, where our agent, Tom Ross, sort of adopted us, gave us space to rehearse, and watched us take off from there. Christine. That was my first rehearsal with Stevie and Lindsay. They were in the band, but I'd never played with them before. I started playing Say You Love Me, and when I reached the chorus they started singing with me and fell right into it. I heard this incredible sound, our three voices, and said to myself, is this me singing? I couldn't believe how great this three-voice harmony was. My skin turned to gooseflesh, and I wondered how long this feeling was going to last. Several things were obvious from the start. Fleetwood Mac once again had a front line of 3 singers and songwriters, but more powerful than ever. Those early rehearsals reminded me so much of the energy that exploded when Peter Green brought us together with Jeremy Spencer for the first time. Right from the get-go, we could tell that this was going to play. Lindsay was a brilliant player, and Chris and Stevie sounded as lovely as falling water, plus the vibes and energy was shimmering. I also found Stevie to be the most endearing combination of beatnik poet and cowgirl. From the beginning, she was determined to bring a mystical quality into this version of the band. Right when she and Lindsay had joined, she asked me for a set of Fleetwood Mac albums so she could look for a theme or a thread that ran all the way through the weave. She sat in her room and listened to all of the music and came up with a word, mystical. She later reminisced, since I have a deep love for the mystical anyway, this really appealed to me. I thought this might really be the band for me because they are mystical. They play wonderful rock and roll, and there's another lady, so I'll have a pal. Yet the truth must be told, neither Stevie nor Lindsay was ecstatic about joining Fleetwood Mac. They'd laboured on the songs for their second record with the zeal of true believers, and now that music would be presented to the world as a product of Fleetwood Mac. Lindsay wasn't really familiar with our music to that point, except for Then Play On, but he knew we had a tradition of good guitars, and they were dead broke, so they did it. Okay, well, I'm going to stop reading there, but yes, Fleetwood. My Life and Adventures in Fleetwood Mac, written with Stephen Davis. So I hope you enjoyed that little reading, and are you going to see Fleetwood Mac? If you are, you're very lucky. I would love to, but there you go. So enough about my hard luck stories. Don't forget, you've got lots of other choices on Rockanory of readings from over the past few years that I've uploaded, so if you fancy some more rock and roll bedtime stories, then they're all here. And I will put some more up soon. So thank you for watching. Bye!